He didn't know why he liked the game so much, but he remembered playing it over and over, imagining himself and his mother and his grandfather and his grandfather's dog, Elizabeth, all of them inside the little pint container, and himself, another part of himself, leaning over them like a giant or a thundercloud, pushing his makeshift train slowly past. He didn't call to his grandfather when he came into the house that day. The door banged shut, the furniture sat silently. He could hear the television talking in his grandfather's room, so he knew his grandfather was there, dozing in the little windowless room, an addition to the house, just space enough for his grandfather's bed and a dresser, a small TV, and a lamp, with curlicues of cigarette smoke around them. His grandfather was propped up against some pillows, drinking beer, an old blanket, pilled cotton, silk edges unraveling, was thrown across his grandfather's middle. An ashtray balanced on it. Tired, his grandfather worked as a janitor. He went to work early in the morning, while it was still dark. Sometimes when Jonah came home from school, his grandfather would come out of his room and tell Jonah stories or jokes, or he would complain about things, about being tired, about Jonah's mother. "What's the problem with her now? Did you do something to get her mad?" "I didn't do anything to her." And he would swear about people that he didn't like, people who had cheated him, or maybe he would smile and call Elizabeth to him. Baby girl, what are you doing there? Does a baby girl want a piece of lunch meat, does she?" And Elizabeth would come, clicking her nails across the floor, her bobbed tail almost vibrating as she wagged it, her eyes full of love as Jonah's grandfather crooned to her. But Jonah's grandfather didn't come out of his room that day, and Jonah dropped his book bag to the floor of the kitchen. There was the smell of smoke and fried eggs and the old food in the refrigerator, unwashed dishes in the sink. His grandfather's door was half closed, and Jonah sat at the kitchen table for a time, eating cereal. His mother was at work. He didn't know whether he missed her or not, but he thought of her as he sat there in the still kitchen. She worked at a place called Harmony Farm, packing eggs, she said, and the tone of her voice made him imagine dark labyrinths with rows of nests, a promenade of sad, dirty workers moving slowly through the passageways. She wouldn't talk about it when she got home. Often she wouldn't want to talk at all, wouldn't want to be touched, would make their supper, which she herself wouldn't eat. She would go to her room and listen to old records she'd had since she was in junior high, her eyes open and her hands in a praying shape beneath her cheek, her long hair spread out behind her on the pillow. He could stand there for a very long time, watching her from the edge of the doorway, and she wouldn't move. The needle of the phonograph pulsed like a smooth car along the spiraling track of a record album, and her eyes seemed to register the music more than anything else, her blinking coinciding with a pause or a beat. But he knew that she could see him standing there. They were looking at each other, and it was a sort of game to try to blink when she blinked, to set his mouth in the same shape as her mouth, to hear what she was hearing. It was a sort of game to see how far he could inch into the room, sliding his feet the way a leaf opens, and sometimes he was almost to the center of the room before she finally spoke. "Get out," she would say, almost dreamily, and then she would turn her face away from him toward the wall. He thought of her as his spoon hovered over his cereal. One day, he thought, she wouldn't come home from work, or she might disappear in the night. He had awakened a few times, footsteps on the stairs, in the kitchen, the back door opening. From the upstairs window, he saw her forcing her arm into the sleeve of her coat as she walked down the driveway. Her face was strange in the pale brightness cast by the floodlights that his grandfather had installed outside the house. Her breath lifted up, out of her, in the cold and drifted like mist, trailing behind her as she moved into the darkness beyond the circle of porch light. "We won't be staying long," she would tell Jonah sometimes. She would talk about the places where they used to live, as if they'd just come to Jonah's grandfather's house for a visit.